Hello, my name is RC. I'm an alcoholic and a compulsive gambler in recovery. Today, it has been 3,164 days since my last drink or drug, and it has been 36 days since my last bet. In this channel, I'm going to be talking about my recovery journey. I have two life-changing addictions. One is with alcohol and drugs, and the other one is with gambling. I always want to start this channel with some gratitude. So the three things that I'm grateful for today is my clean and sober time from gambling, drugs, and alcohol. My dog is healthy, and also I get to start this channel. Now, if you're an addict like me, your head wants to tell you some crazy things and have a lot of negativity. So I always try to do at least 3 affirmations for the day. So one affirmation that I'm going to tell myself is that I deserve good things. My second one is I deserve to recover. And the third one is I am doing my best. Like I've said, I'm an alcoholic and a compulsive gambler. So that means I have 2 life-changing addictions. As you can tell, I haven't drank or drug in a really long time. But my secondary addiction, which is gambling, has become a problem for me. And I am learning how to cope with this secondary addiction. My secondary addiction started to become a problem about roughly 2 years ago. I started gambling a lot. I had a lot of free time, so I went to a lot of the casinos. I won really big one time, and then I gambled it right back. And, I just don't really have control whenever I gamble. I'm sober, and I didn't realize that I was using gambling to cope with a lot of the emotions that I didn't want to feel. The betting that I did was I would go on the slots, I would play craps, I would do sports betting, and honestly, my downfall was the online social casinos that really messed me up. Because of my gambling, I accumulated about $15,000 in debt solely on gambling. That doesn't include any of my credit card debt or all those things. I maxed out my credit cards because of gambling. I took out loans because I used my bill money to go gamble. Like I said, when I gamble, I have no control. So what led me to seek help for my gambling, or just in general, was Sunday night. My girlfriend and I were looking for sea turtles in the riverbank that I live in. During that time, while we were seeing sea turtles, I said, okay, if we see a sea turtle, I'm gonna go gamble once I get paid. And lo and behold, I saw a sea turtle, so I said, oh, it's my rite of passage to go gamble. Mind you, I know this isn't logical, and with gambling addiction, there is no logic. Your prefrontal cortex is just shut off. So I knew this wasn't logical, but I got the go ahead to just go gamble. My paycheck hit at 2 a.m, and it started off with $500. I'm gonna go bet, play some roulette, all those things. And then I lost. And then another $500, and then I lost. And another $500. And the next thing you know, by 3 o'clock in the morning, within 1 hour of getting paid, I lost my whole paycheck. I remember feeling so ashamed, asking myself, how did I get here? What did I do? Why did I do that? And honestly, I couldn't have told you why I did that. There was just this compulsion to go and bet. As an addict, there is no moderation. It was go big or go home, right? And I went home with my tail tucked between my legs. I was feeling very anxious. I went to work the next day, and I wasn't able to show up as much as possible. I only probably worked about 10% of my effort, and I went home. Later on that day, I called my sponsor. I told her that I gambled my whole paycheck and I have no idea what to do. And I am at a loss, and I I was so anxious, ashamed, and sad. And to be honest, I felt like I lost trust in myself. How could a sober person do this? I wasn't able to blame it on the alcohol or drugs. It was just me. I would say I had a clear mind, but I didn't. It was the addiction that was pulling me, making me feel that compulsion, making me feel that urge. So I called my sponsor. My sponsor was like, yeah, we're gamblers. That makes sense why you gambled your whole paycheck. You didn't call me for a couple days, so I figured you were doing something crazy. And, she wasn't surprised. She didn't make me feel shamed. She wanted me to get help. So she suggested I go to a treatment center. When my sponsor said I needed to go to a treatment center, my first thought was, a treatment center? I didn't go to a treatment center for my alcoholism. Why would I go for my gambling? My ego was telling me, no, I don't need a treatment center. I was beaten by my addiction enough just to say, okay, I'll do my research. I realized I had no good ideas. I need to take suggestion because obviously I couldn't trust myself with my thoughts. And she specifically said, go to a specific treatment center that takes care of gambling. I didn't know if there was any treatment centers specifically tailored to gambling, but I did my research. A lot of them were just addiction treatment centers, specifically for substance abuse. There was one inpatient treatment center specifically for gambling, but in order to qualify, we needed a substance abuse problem. And remember, I had been 8 years sober, and so I didn't qualify. I started calling random treatment centers. A lot of them didn't take my insurance. A lot of them were out of state, and they didn't take my insurance because I had a specific HMO. Out of nowhere, there was this one number that started calling me. For some reason, something in me told me to pick it up. Mind you, I'm a gambler with a lot of debt, and so I don't answer phone calls that I don't know because most likely they're either going to be spam or collectors, and I dodged both of them. But something in me told me to answer, and so I answered, and I was like, hello? I was like, all right, who is this? And so it was a nice lady on the phone. Her name was Danielle. She told me that she got my number through another treatment center that I called. They didn't take my insurance, so they referred me to Danielle. And so I was like, okay, that's nice. So Danielle was very sweet. She was caring. She was essentially taking my intake and, just asking questions, what was going on, why I felt like I needed to go to a treatment center. And yeah, she ran my insurance, and sure enough, they said that they took my insurance. I just had a copay to pay. She scheduled a phone meetup with the clinical director at the treatment center. And yeah, I felt very good after that phone call, and I was very hopeful. After that phone call, I felt just a little bit of ease. A little bit of pressure was relieved. I called my sponsor. I told them that there's a treatment center that took my insurance. It's a mental health treatment center, but it doesn't specifically handle addiction or gambling addiction. And my sponsor was like, no, you can't settle for less. You need to go to a gambling specific program. And so I started calling. I kept calling and I kept doing my research, but there was just no gambling treatment center within my area or even out of my area. It was just frustrating. But at the same time, I had that mental health treatment center in the back of my head. So Thursday came along. I met up with the clinical director of the treatment center, and she was caring. She was awesome, and she was so nice, right? And again, after the phone call, I felt my intuition was telling me that I need to go to this treatment center. And again, I called my sponsor, let her know that, I really feel like this is the only place that I can go to that accepts my insurance. And why not go, since I do struggle with mental health. I knew something deep inside me needed structure. Something deep inside me needed therapy, and very intense therapy at that. So I struggle with mental health issues. I'm a bipolar bear. I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic. And I've had a lot of trauma growing up and a little bit of the PTSD. Mental health is a lot. Yeah, so I told my sponsor that I felt like I needed to go to that mental health treatment center. Everything, all the arrows are pointing to go that way. And my sponsor was like, okay, if you really feel like it, let's just wait until 5 o'clock by Friday. And if you don't hear back from any other treatment center, make that decision to go to the mental health treatment center. And so Friday came along. There was no other treatment centers that got back to me or even took my insurance. So Friday by 5 p.m., I decided to go to that mental health treatment center and check myself into rehab. I didn't know if it was gonna work because it wasn't a specific gambling program, but I knew something needed to change. I knew if I didn't get help, I would definitely be on the road to having suicidal ideations, to having suicidal thoughts, and probably worst comes to worst, maybe even do an attempt. I definitely knew I needed help, and so I researched, I put in the work, and took suggestion, and I ended up at a rehab. So yeah, that's basically all I got for today. If you resonate with anything that I've said, if you can relate, if you have another secondary addiction, go ahead and put it on the comments. Go ahead and subscribe. I'm really grateful for being able to do this. So I challenge you to find 3 things that you're grateful for today. All right. Thank you. Bye.